Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Omega Insight. Tonight's topic is, are you a sand wasp? Well, you don't have to say it that way, but are you a sand wasp? And what does that mean? Well, are you a creature of habit? We're going to talk about the dangers of being a creature of habit. So there's this little fable that we used to tell, little story that I'm going to belay unto you. Many, many years ago, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there was this little creature called a sand wasp. Now, a sand wasp lived in the sand. Obviously, it was a wasp that lived in the sand. And the sand wasp would bury down into the sand and make its own little area for nesting. So there'd be this little tiny way to go down, and when they finally came in, there'd be a larger area, and that's where they would go collect their food, crawl into their hole, drop off the food. However, what happens with sand wasps are, a sand wasp would emerge from its home, it would fly out and go find an insect or food, prey. It's a very predator animal. Collect its prey, and it would bring its prey right to the entrance of its home. It would place the food right there. Then it would crawl inside and make sure that nobody had got in there. There was no predators in there, and it would come back out, grab its food, and bring it back down. Now, scientists were aware of this behavior or habit. They'd continually watch a sand wasp go out, get its prey, come back, place the food right at the entrance, climb into it, burrow into its home, make sure that there's nobody in there, come back out, grab the food, and bring it back in. And so what scientists did is they had this little experiment. Once the sand wasp dropped the food off in the front of its home and it crawled inside, the scientists would move the food just about a foot away, clearly visible, just would move the food just a little bit further away. And upon emerging from its home, the sand wasp would recognize the food wasn't there anymore, so it would fly over, pick up the food, bring it back to the entrance, leave it there, climb back in to make sure that nobody was there, come back out and get it. Well, what scientists decided to do was see how long it would take the sand wasp to change its behavior. So, one morning, sand wasp climbs out, flies off, go gets its food, comes back, drops it off at the entrance, goes inside to check for any predators. The scientists take the food and move it about a foot away. Sand wasp emerges, notices the food's not there, flies over, picks up the food, brings it back to the entrance, climbs inside to see if there's anyone there. The scientists take the food and move it back. Sand wasps emerge, doesn't see the food, flies over and grabs the food, places it back in front, goes inside to see if there's any predators. Scientists move it ad infinitum. They continue to do this over and over and over again. Now, what's the most disturbing aspect of this is eventually the sand wasp went into its hole and never came out. Or just fed on the food that was in there, but it would never eat the food because it kept moving it. And it wouldn't fly away to find more food. Because it was right there, it would just bring it up, but because it had a habit, it left the food in front of the entrance and continued to go inside. And every time the scientists would move, it would be doing the same thing, continuously doing the same thing. Now, I know that when we use the idea of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that's Einstein's quote. This is something very different. Here's what was happening. We were waiting for something for the sand wasp. It wasn't really expecting for something to be different. The scientists were wondering if the sand wasp would ever be able to recognize it's the same food, it's a short distance, no predator could get in there, and change its behavior. So I guess it's probably a little similar to Einstein's. But eventually the sand wasp died because it didn't go get food. It just kept going over and over and over and over, repeating the same thing. It's a creature of habit. Now, how does that pertain to us? Well, we've talked about change. We've talked about our behaviors and our belief systems. We've talked about the way we interact with individuals. And the most important thing that we discuss is self-awareness. Omega Vector is founded on self-awareness. We must become aware of what we're doing. And if what we're doing isn't working, change it. If we are continuously doing the same thing with the expectation that it's going to change, or the expectation that everything will be okay, or that, hey, it's all good now, and we never change the way we are, it will never be all good. So self-awareness is very important in our lives. It's the foundation of what we talk about in Omega Vector. To become aware of me. Now, there's many ways that I can practice self-awareness. One of the best ways is feedback. To receive feedback from other people, and also to become aware of myself. There's a great tradition, Torquem Saradarium just spoke about this at length. At the end of your day, before you go to sleep, do what he called an evening review. Go through your day and see how you did. Perhaps maybe you're somebody who has a task list, and check off things that you've done, and at the end of the day, look and see how you did. Now, the key to doing this is not to judge yourself. Oh, I didn't do that. Or, oh, I could have done. That's not going to help you. The best thing to do is recognize, oh, I was able to succeed here. I didn't handle that quite so well. Now, there's also a philosophy that says, as you're doing your evening review, rewrite it in your mind to kind of rewrite the script so you're not going to bed with an upset. Perhaps you did have an upset. Let's say you lost your temper, or you reacted, or you spoke out of turn. And as you're reviewing yourself throughout the day, what you can do, at night, when you're reviewing your day, you can say, oh, I didn't handle that well. Next time I'm going to remember to do X, Y, and Z. And set the intention in your head of how you're going to handle it the next time that situation happens. That's one way of receiving feedback. That's self-awareness, self-feedback. The second thing is obviously asking other people, hey, what did you think of that? How did you think that came across? Do you think I handled that correctly? Could I have done something differently? When we ask for feedback, here's the caution. Most of the time we go to people that we like, our friends. They're, oh no, you did great, it was all good. And you may not always get the truth. You might, but you may not always get the truth unless you have great friends who don't mind giving you hard feedback, or I know people like to call it criticism, but it's not criticism, and it's not critical feedback. It's just areas of opportunity. I know that's the new phrases now. So what are some of the areas of opportunity that you have? If we relate this back to the Sandwasp, and if the Sandwasp had somebody that it could go to and say, what am I doing? What's causing me not to have my food here? Maybe we could have suggested, hey, you're right there. There's no predators, or keep an eye out, or work with another buddy. I don't know. I'm not a Sandwasp. I'm not going to go into that. We used to tell that story because it really does relate to the idea of when you continuing doing something over and over and over again, and it's not working for you. When something's not working for you, change is required. Change starts in our thinking. So change starts in our thinking. We have to think something differently before we become differently. We always have to remember that. One of the first things that we introduce in an Omega-1 is we say we are a product of our thoughts. And our thoughts are derived by what we see and what we hear. If we could see something differently and hear it differently, then we have an opportunity to become different. And that's the idea of feedback. When we ask for feedback, we give our own self-awareness, we hear things differently, we see things differently, and we become differently. Today, in today's world, we do so much virtual work now. We interact with each other. A lot of people are doing remotes. There's a lot of contact and interviewing on the camera itself. And a suggestion is to record yourself to see how you do. A lot of people don't want to do that. Oh, I don't want to see how I look. I don't want to see how I sound. A lot of people don't like doing that, but that's very beneficial for us. That's another way of feedback. How are we really coming across? Because truth be told, when I say something in my head, it may not be the way it shows up. Perhaps maybe I have an inflection or a tone to it. Maybe I said it too fast, or I was dismissive when I spoke about it. And that's why it's very beneficial to hear ourselves, whether it's another individual saying to us. And then, of course, it's very good to do an evening review to practice reviewing how I did during the day. Now, when it comes to our evening review, the suggestion is you start from the moment that you're sitting down to do your review. How did I do last hour? How was the hour before that? And work your way all the way back to the beginning, the very first start of your day, to see how you went. That's really a great way to train. It's a good mind training trick as well. So those are the things that I wanted to belay upon you today, wondering if you're a Sandwasp, and make sure that you can implement change. Change comes from feedback and self-awareness. And that comes from my evening review at the end of the day, as well as asking other people how I presented myself and how I showed up. And of course, today we have the videos that we can review. So that's all I have for this evening. I wanted to just reach out real quick and send our well wishes and good thoughts to all of the people in the East Coast who are getting pounded with snow today and tomorrow for the most part this week. And not to like rub it in that it was 71 degrees today, but it was. So I just wanted to really pray out for you guys and make sure that you guys are okay and that electricity stays up and people stay warm. So I'm sending good thoughts and prayers to the East Coast. And also to see if you liked last Wednesday, Jen posted a previous workshop, which you can find on our YouTube. And I think we might do that again this Wednesday as well. I liked mixing it up with the gratitude and the post back to our YouTubes. Remember, when you go to the YouTubes, these are the older workshops, so some of them are an hour and a half, some of them might be an hour. It depends on the topic that you're interested in, and there's a couple of them have a 1 and a 2, like they're follow-ups to one another. And then, of course, Friday, I will jump on and do another quick little coffee talk. I might actually jump in and talk a little bit about, see how you did for your evening review. And I'll actually task myself this week to monitor and make sure I become aware of doing my evening reviews for the whole week. And I'll check in with you on Friday. So thanks for watching. Oh, thanks, Charlie. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Again, if you're in the East Coast, please stay safe, and our thoughts and prayers are with you. Have a good evening. Bye now.